So we have tonight the pride of Eastern Green High School. Can anybody guess that? Anybody listening at home? Are they clicking the Kahoot button and saying they got it? But tonight we have Coach Dusty May from Florida Atlantic. He's been there for 5 years. He's done, I think, every job in college basketball, from video coordinator to student manager to assistant coach to probably associate head coach. I didn't really look into that. And then now he's been at FAU for now his 5th year. And what's really cool about Coach is, they did something special last year, which is an amazing accomplishment. But I know that the accomplishment of going to the Final Four was more of just the guys being together and learning those memories with each other and holding each other accountable. But Coach Dusty May, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming because I know this is a busy time of year and being a head coach, and we've talked to a couple others, and we don't even want you to read your schedule to us because it would make us crazy. But so I got to ask you though, before we get into the title question, what's the best podcast you've ever been on?
Best, to be honest, my favorite was the Barstool Sports with Big Cat. That was
Big Cat.
I'm a guy that I like to laugh a lot. It's funny and it wasn't so serious. And so that was probably my favorite one that I've done up to this point. I've done some great ones with Chris Oliver and some guys I'm big fans of, but that was the one that was most memorable.
Yeah, the Barstool guys are great. So that would be a good time.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. That's one that I listened to today, and I guess just some of their questions were off the wall, but you threw them right back at them. It was pretty awesome. So, and before we get into how are you wired, I want to know, do you still do noon ball?
You know what? I hurt my knee about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and playing in a men's league, and I can't even really run now. I can barely jog. So basketball and tennis games have been retired, and now I'm pretty much a walker and a lightweight weightlifter.
Yeah, well, we're right around the same age, so I think we're in the same boat. And unless something spurs and gets us playing ball, right, Billy?
That's that. I'm a catch and shoot guy. Catch and shoot.
Yeah, I miss it. I should have never went inside the 3-point line. I tried not to very often, and right. I got a wild itch to attack the rim and paid dearly for it.
That's no good. So, well, let's go on, Coach. How are you wired?
I love to learn. I'm trying to grow every single day. If I'm not learning something or not trying to learn something, then I feel like I haven't accomplished anything. So usually the first hour or so out of my day, at least, is trying to find something, whether it's messaging, something through film, something to give me or my team or staff some sort of advantage or something to think or toil with. So that's how I'm wired. I love to compete. When I'm at home, we're playing board games, we're playing cornhole in the backyard, we're playing bocce, whatever the case. We love playing games. We love to compete, and the joy of competition is something that we love in our house.
I love it. Competition fuels the best of us, for sure. Coach, who were some of your mentors throughout your career here? Some of you guys some you might lean on still.
All of my coaches, that's why I coach. My parents were divorced. My coaches became father figure role models to me. And that's the sort of impact that I wanted to have when I decided to go into coaching. When I was probably maybe 13, 14, 15 years old, I knew I wanted to be a basketball coach for a number of reasons. Number one, I loved ball so much. I loved being around the game. When I wasn't playing it, I was watching it. When I wasn't watching it, I was talking about it. And then even when we weren't doing that, we were sitting in the gym, just as almost like a barber shop in our gym, where we would just sit around and talk for hours, laying around, while we're rehydrating or stretching or whatever. So there's just always great community in the gym. And so I love to help people. I love to assist. I love to teach. So all the things that I enjoy doing, I fortunately get paid to do now for a living.
So, Coach, you seem like a relationship guy, and I was just curious because you've been in coaching for a while and you've been through all those avenues. For example, I know when I go to a Final Four, when I was a manager at South Florida and worked at St. Leo and some other places, like, you just call everybody coach because it's it's easier that way, but you're a relationship guy. Is that something you've developed from being in the business, or is that something that came naturally to you when you were younger?
Well, I'm naturally curious, and people that are interesting to me, I love visiting with them. So even when I was young, I enjoyed being around older people because I felt like I could pick something up from being around them. As far as calling people coach, it's hard for me. I still call my high school coach coach. I still call all the coaches I work with. I call them coach, just because I have so much respect and I revere our profession so much. And so it's yes, it is easier as I've gotten older. I'm not near as good as I used to be with names, but I naturally call everyone coach because it's a sign of respect for the job that we coaches do every single day. It's difficult. Some of us are well compensated. We're too compensated for the job we do, but it's difficult. But it's something that I think a lot of us would do for free. So. Yeah, I pinch myself regularly just because of me being able to do what I do on a daily basis.
My wife loves it when I call her coach. It's just she's like, do you remember where you are right now? I said, oh, sorry about that.
So, Coach, you started as a student assistant, correct, at Indiana, and that was
I did, yes.
And that was Coach Knight's last, like that was the end of his run at Indiana, correct? How was that experience?
Well, I played Division II 1 year, so I at a small Division II school. So I came from a very small high school, and I was somewhat sheltered. And I went to a Division II school, so it almost served as like an entry into the big state university, big time basketball program, which IU is, and academically and athletically. And so when I went to Indiana, I was still trying to figure out who I was going to be because I was done playing. And I think all of us, when we're young, we spend so much time playing this game that when we're finally done playing, whether it's 19 or 25 or 30, it's, there's a void in your life. And the manager role gave me, I guess, a way to fill that void along with intramurals and things like that. But it was difficult, but I went with purpose and intention of trying to become a varsity coach in the state of Indiana. And I thought that was the best avenue for me to do that. I wasn't fulfilled at the Division II school I was at. And I thought learning from Coach Knight would be the best thing for my career down the line. And I decided to do that. But I had some ends with the program. So I felt that I had a great shot at being a manager. There's 100 applicants a year for maybe 3 or 4 spots. And typically, if you don't know Coach Knight personally, or your father didn't play for him, or you're the son of the team dentist, or whatever the case, it's very difficult to get a position there. Fortunately, I had an inside connection because of I'd done some work for the team doctor. I had it and I knew what I wanted to do. So my purpose was very clear. I wanted to go there to learn to be a better basketball coach.
Awesome.
So as I was re-listening to the coaching clinic last year, and today we had a practice and I used some of your drills. It was a lot of fun to apply some of those. And it's funny, last year you actually said, I don't think we're there yet. I think you said something along those lines. And I don't know, obviously we never know if we're there. We're just working at it. But it seems like you've designed a program that players want to play in. And I looked at the numbers. I was looking at the KenPom numbers, and I'm like, all right, where's the jump? What was the magic pixie dust this year? And I mean, there were little increments, and you probably know something legitimate that I don't know. Like your offensive efficiency was, a lot better or something like that. But how have you consciously developed the program that your guys want to play in?
Well, we knew from the beginning, being in Boca, starting at a program that didn't have a lot of tradition or following or even big alumni base, that we had to do things different, and we needed to be fun to watch. We needed to be entertaining. So there's an entertainment value that we had to find. And we also, it's important to us as a staff that our players have a great experience. They're not very few players at our level are going to play in the NBA. Several are going to be able to play somewhere for money, which is the goal, to play a child's game, get paid to play a child's game. And so from the beginning, we didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but we knew how we wanted to look as far as energy, enthusiasm, passion for the game. And as we went as we stacked the years, we just kept finding more guys that were like us, that were gym rats, that loved ball, that loved the camaraderie in a locker room, and wanted the sincere, authentic relationships that we wanted as well. And so now we just feel like we have a lot of like-minded people in the same place, and we're all pulling in the same direction and having a blast doing it. It's a collaboration. We're all trying to find the absolute best way. We're very open, honest, and with our players, with every decision we make, and we want their input on all of it, because when they're invested in the process, they're going to do it better. And so I think it's just the fact that we all have a lot at stake. We all have chips in the game, and it's just a lot more fun to do it together.
Coach, at what point of last season did you guys kind of realize, or you yourself realize, man, we have a chance to be really good? Was it the year prior, or was it sometime during the season?
Yeah, the year prior, me personally and within the staff, we were very disappointed in our end result. And, you know, we were about 3 guards short from where we were this past season. So Nick Boyd sat out with an injury all year. Nick Boyd's one of the best leaders I've ever been around, on and off the court. BJ Greenlee missed maybe the first 8 or 10 games with an injury. And then we didn't have Jalen Gaffney yet. So we were playing. Alejandro Orlat was a scholarship player. He started as a walk-on. He was playing about 20, 25 minutes a game early in the season. And we dropped a couple of those games, and they were one possession games. And it seemed like everything went wrong, where timely shots, you know, we played one team and their center made 6 threes all year. He made 4 against us. Our luck quotient was second last in the country that year. And so at that clinic you spoke of, Coach, what I said was that I felt like we had moderate success for what our standards are, but I was really confident going into the season because of we watch our guys compete. We see their togetherness. And when you factor those things in with how talented we think we are, we felt like we had a chance to make a big step forward, take a big step forward and make a big jump. And we were confident going into it, but a lot went right. We stayed healthy, and we had a lot of guys sacrifice time, minutes, points. And usually when you're successful, there's been a lot of sacrifice by a lot of people. So, you know, it wasn't as if there was some pixie dust. We did get better as coaches. We got better as players from the calendar year before, but it was more of the strength in numbers. We had 3 more guards, and we all know you win with veteran guards at this level. So a lot went into it, but also just the breaks, the timely shooting, the free throws. And we believed we were going to win, as opposed to hoping we were going to win like we did the year before.
Yeah, you absolutely saw it in the tournament. You guys, you know, it didn't matter what your seed was. You could see that you guys believed you were going to win the game, and that goes a long way. So now your success last year, has that changed preparation this year? Are you battling a different fight this year?
Yeah, absolutely. We feel like we're battling a different fight every year. And one of the things we feel like is a very important component of our job is anticipating and predicting what our challenges are going to be. What obstacles do we feel like this team is going to have? And even in individual meetings, we ask the players regularly, what do you think is going to keep this team from reaching its full potential? Is there some jealousy? Is there some cliques? Are there cliques? Is there some division in the locker room? How's our chemistry overall? Do you guys feel like we mesh well as a group? So we try to talk about all those things and get out ahead of them. And then we just feel like now in August, September, October, if we can anticipate what our issues are going to be, we talk about them and we decide how we're going to respond to them when they do occur, then we'll be way ahead of the game. And even if in the time of emotion, because how we feel is usually it's a natural chemical reaction in our brain. And then we just have to disassociate ourselves from those feelings and decide how we're going to respond, because ultimately we're evaluated based on our behavior. So we just try to make the conscious decision how we're going to respond to all these different things now when we're not into the heat of the battle. We don't have our parents, our girlfriends, whatever at the games in stressful situations. And therefore, when it does happen, we can simply remind ourselves that's not how we decided we're going to respond to this, whatever it is. And it might be an injury, it might be a shooting slump, but we just try to anticipate what those things are going to be. And we decide now how we're going to react. And we have a group that's very open towards those things.
Yeah. I think I heard you mention on another show about how you kind of did I'm going to say, I have it written on another piece of paper, but you did kind of mental, I don't want to say autopsy because that would be after the fact, but you did a preview of mental challenges, and that was really cool to hear. And it's something that we all could do. And I try to do it all the time when I'm planning my practice and those things. What could go wrong here, and how can deal with those things. I wanted
We
to
actually
ask you,
called it mental conditioning. We said we
That's
have
it.
one more conditioning before practice starts. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be, we've got to be ready to go. And we walk on the court, and we stole this from Monty Williams when he was with the Suns. He did it for training camp. And then on the board is the first slide. And if you have 8 seniors, you're probably going to have some guys worried about next year, what they're going to be doing when the ball starts bouncing that year. If it's, there's a number of issues depending on the variables of your team. So we try to just anticipate that. We just call it mental conditioning because it's just like physical conditioning. You're preparing yourself and conditioning yourself to respond in a way that's going to help the team.
Coach, how receptive are your young guys to that? Yeah, I feel like the veterans would probably do better. How are your young guys with that?
Well, because we have such great leadership within the older classes, it's not that difficult for our younger guys. And it really started with Mike Forrest, who graduated. He was the first guy that 365 days out of the year, we didn't really have to talk about things. We could just say, that's what it looks like. We could point at Mike and say, that's what it looks like. That's what we embody as far as his spirit, work ethic, unselfishness, all the things that you want out of a basketball player. Other than wingspan and height and shooting ability, all the intangibles, he had them all. So he was the first guy to model the behavior that we wanted every single day. And now we have several guys that when young guys come into the program, even with the guys we have committed now, they're already talking about being a shadow to some of the guys in our program because they know that what they've done and what we've done isn't by accident. It's a lot of sweat equity and a lot of hours. So we're really, really big on modeling the behavior and holding those older guys to very high standards so the younger guys can simply watch what they do and emulate it.
Yeah, that's really cool. That is really cool. Michael Forrest, and I think I looked today, he played 5th, 6th most minutes on your team. Like, it wasn't like he was the star. So that was pretty awesome.
Well, he was a starter as a freshman and 6th man as a sophomore and starter as a junior and starter as a senior, and then came off the bench basically as our 7th man as a COVID senior. And he was much more valuable than his numbers. And for a guy that's the 2nd leading scorer in the history of our school to take a back seat to a couple of guys that really evolved and emerged into a starring role, just once again was a tribute to his character, how he was raised, his parents, his coaches before us, but also his desire to win and leave a legacy here other than just being a top scorer or whatnot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, we hope a lot of our kids can hear this and understand, and other coaches can push that kind of stuff. So have you always been a truth teller? Is that a skill you've had to develop? And if so, like, what is your method with that truth telling or not truth telling, like holding your kids accountable?
Well, I'm very transparent with them with the truth telling as well. I tell them that I'm not a truth teller. I'm telling them what I perceive to be the truth and what I see and what I feel. And I might be wrong, but I'm very direct in what I'm seeing and thinking. And there's never a moment where I'm disappointed in someone's behavior that I don't immediately call them in, meet them outside, go to lunch, walk, whatever, and tell them how I'm perceiving their behavior. And sometimes I'm way off. Sometimes something happens, a player's been frustrated. So you assume he did something that was a negative. In reality, he might've been trying to help his teammate, but because he'd had 3 or 4 bad days, you naturally assume that his behavior is following how it had been. So yes, I tell the guys all the time, I'm not a truth teller, but I am going to tell you how I feel and what I perceive to be the truth. And usually I'm right because I pay attention to how I think they're feeling and what the situation they're in. I'm empathetic, but sometimes I have read the situation completely wrong, and they usually tell me because we have that type of open and honest relationship.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I got a question to kind of go back to the leadership part and the recruiting part of it. Is this something like that you're looking for specifically in a recruit? Like, they're going to be able to exhibit a leadership quality, or they're going to be able to follow in line? Is there something like specifically you're looking for in a recruit as far as that leadership quality?
To be honest, someone asked me a similar question today on the road. Not really. Because there are guys, and it's weird that the two leaders of our team are Giancarlo Rosado, who comes off the bench, and Nick Boyd, who is probably our fourth or fifth leading scorer last year. And we empowered, anointed, but they just emerged as our leaders. And to be honest, it was more of us just watching our guys in the locker room. When those two guys, especially Giancarlo, I first noticed with him, when he spoke, everyone listened. When he had something to say, there was meaning behind it. He had put thought. He was very intentional, and he was a hard worker. And it wasn't as if he was getting all the shots and the minutes and accolades. So we have a very unique deal where we have two great leaders that aren't necessarily our best players. And then we simply ask our best players to lead by example. If they want to contribute as verbal leaders, we love it because they've earned that respect. But we want them to model the behaviors. And so we can point to them as far as having the best attitude, being extremely coachable, open to learning, open to new things. And so it's different roles. But what we look for in recruits is, number one, do they really enjoy playing ball or being a part of a team? Those two things are non-negotiable. We have to feel like you love the game or love being on a team like we do. And then the competitive spirit, that usually goes hand in hand. And then intelligence, and it might be book smart, it might be sport IQ, but we feel like guys who are competitive and tough and intelligent, they usually figure out a way to be successful, even if it's difficult, even if they have some bumps in the road, they typically figure it out. So those are the things we're looking for, much more than height or wingspan or shooting ability. Those things we really place a high value on.
That's really cool, Coach. So let's talk a little hoops, okay? Not so much X and O's, but let's start kind of maybe now or towards the end of last year so you're starting a new year. You're at a level where I think there's probably got to be a huge premium on player development. And I know it's all over. I know everywhere it's player development, but I think your connection with your guys through the player development allows you to, those guys to want to play at your place. So can you explain like the process of identifying what someone might need to develop, making a plan, how you execute that plan? Like, are you out there doing the workouts, or the assistants, or whoever can be on the floor kind of thing?
Well, our assistant coaches have position groups, and as a head coach, I'm very, very involved in the individual development component because I took so much pride in it as an assistant and spent so much time. And I felt like that was probably my greatest strength as an assistant coach, was the ability to help guys get better. And the main reason was because I loved doing it. I loved being in the gym. I loved watching film, evaluating guys. And we really try to tailor our workouts to what we think is the best way for them to play. We don't teach the small, fast guys the same reads and decisions as the 6'5" big, strong guards, because they have a different set of rules. So we try to give them options. We try to make it their idea. But we do feel like with our experience and that as much as we study the game, that we have some very good, options for them to choose and tinker with and play around. But I think most importantly, our guys believe that our staff can help them get better. They don't think it, they know it. And our track record's there. And I think all of our former players echo it to the new guys, that if you listen and buy in, the staff's going to help you. But we give them our most valuable resource when we have 20 hours a week. We don't practice that long, but every day from 5 to 6 in the evenings, we're in the gym. If the guys want to watch film, they want to get shots, they want to work out. Everyone's at a different place in the season, different place in their career. So we are very, very intentional. Every single morning, we clear our calendars. If the guys want to stop in and watch film, if they want to get shots, there's nothing more important than being available for our players. And, the flip side of that is we have to have guys that want to get better. And so it's a two-way street, but our guys, I do think they value that we spend a lot of time, energy, and thought thinking of ways, planning for ways to help them improve their game individually. And we care about their individual game. We want them to play forever, but player development is helping guys play basketball better. So that looks like a lot of different things. It looks like different things at different times of the year for us. And we experiment, we tinker, we we encourage them to be creative and find different solutions as long as it fits into the context of the team. So that's a very broad answer for, I think, is even broader question, but it looks a lot different
Thanks.
every year to every single player, depending on how he plays and what we believe could be his ultimate strengths.
Well,
It's a great answer.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Do you think you spend more time on player development now than you have in the past? I mean, is that something that you try to hit on every day? I mean, even when you're in the grind of a season, I know we're talking scouts and everything else, but are you still, making sure we are doing our development?
No, because as an assistant, if I had the guards and I had 4 guards, I was responsible for 5 guards, and I was probably 1 or 2 of them or 3 of them, I would be in the gym extra for 45 minutes to an hour, each of them. And then with the others, if they don't like to work out as much, maybe it was just encourage them, hey, let's just work 10 to 15 minutes extra a day to work on something very specific and be intentional with that. So there's definitely not enough hours for me now. If a guy's in a shooting slump, or if there's a guy that I need to spend time with that's out of the rotation, then I'll meet him at 7 a.m. for 30 minutes, or another guy for 20 minutes, or after practice, if a guy had a tough one, I'll just rebound for him and talk and maybe work through some shots that he missed that day, just to give him some confidence and love. But yeah, it would be impossible for me to spend as much time with as many guys as we have on the team. But I definitely I give the staff what I see and think, because I watch every single workout. I break it down, and I want our staff also to have a lot of input in what they see. And once again, it's a collaboration. Hey, this is what I think would be a really good option for so-and-so. What do you think? Where do you see this working out? Shoot holes in this, whatever the case. And then we figure out what we think is the best, and then we go tinker with it. And heck, 24 hours later, we may say, you know what, that's not for him. I don't like that. I thought it would be better than it is. It's not what I thought. Let's go back to the drawing board and figure out a better solution. He doesn't have the balance or the explosion for that, or whatever the case.
So let's talk practice planning. Is it a group effort? Is it you make a shell, then we talk about it? What's that look like?
More times than not, we kind of have an outline of things we're going to do every day. We're going to start practice most days with a passing drill, and then we're going to move right into a competitive shooting drill with offense and defense, and then we're probably going to go into one of our 4 or 5 one-on-one drills that we do every single day. And then I might ask the staff, hey, what one-on-one do you guys think we need for this upcoming game? The scout coach will have a lot to say. What do we need to do in our passing drills? Emphasize early kicks, stride stops, late kicks, ball fake skips, whatever it is. We think based on scouting how aggressive their defense is, that we're going to tailor our passing drills just to get our guys in a habit of what they're going to see and be thinking about in advance, and almost as if they're the mental imagery afterwards, where they can picture what we're saying and think about it later. It helps their case. And then we have transition defense, we have ball screen defense, and then we play a lot. So what I don't bog myself down with is making teams very often, or with the drills. Hey, let's work on the ice here with this. Coach Church, you have this. Let's work on this. Coach Williamson, you have that. Coach Abernathy, you have this. You guys know what to do. Figure out the rotations. Figure it out. I just want to work on this. And what I'm watching is hand activity, or I'm watching the early help. And you guys figure out all the details, and you guys, put your own twist on it. But this is what I want to get done today. And they know we've been together so long, we can read each other's minds. Any of us could leave. I could leave tomorrow, and practice is going to look very, very similar. Our coaches can go on the road recruiting, and the new spots can fill in, and we don't miss a beat because we put so much time in planning and the things beforehand that, it's almost like we have systems for everything now.
I love that you start with passing drills. It's probably the more underrated skill. What do you think high school guys, what would you like to see high school coaches work on more? Like, where do you see high school guys coming in being the most underdeveloped in? What area that you think maybe a high school coach should spend a little more time on?
That's a great question. And I ask the NBA trainers and NBA assistants the same thing. Like, what are we not doing well enough? It's usually the same things. The guards that we say, they're ready for college, are usually the ones that know how to change speeds and change pace, whether it's the speed of the ball when they're dribbling, whether it's the change of direction, whether it's the manipulation with their eyes. They know how to slow down and play the game at a slow to fast or fast to slow. They know how to set up all their screens, whether ball screens or off ball screens. And we give our guys maybe 15 different ways to set up their screens. And we challenge them to find the ones that work best for them, the ones they're most comfortable with. And so hopefully they have some self-discovery. But I would say that, and then simply communicating and playing at the level of intensity every possession that it requires at our level. And then it's the same thing when they go above our level. The intensity and attention to detail is elevated even more. So I think that, and even our freshmen, typically they chase the ball too much. They have trouble getting their shot off. They over penetrate because the game's simply going too fast. So if I was gonna lecture high school seniors what to look for, taking away the McDonald's All-Americans, let the game come to you. Don't try to score. You'll score more. Enjoy passing. Figure out how to slow down and read the game with your eyes and learn, watch a ton of films. So the game, you can start seeing the big picture when you're on the court. Those are the things that we're harping on usually with our young players. But our guys now are so bought in that we don't really have to use a lot of the things teaching methods we've used in the past to get them to space away and to get them to off ball cut as opposed to everyone gravitating towards the basketball.
Yeah, that I like how you said it, and Coach Schertz actually mentioned it too about seeing the game. Yeah. Like that's something that you don't hear people say very often. And so he said it, now you're saying it. So, hopefully people take note of that, because I know I did. I love when you talked about the one-on-one drills. That's what we did today. We did about two of those, three maybe if we had a couple minutes at the end. Those are amazing drills. So if anybody can get Coaching U+, they need to watch that, because you did a good job with the Plant Panther lady team there. If you remember at all. But okay, so now I want to talk about scouting. So what does scouting look like for you? Do you divvy it up among assistants as well? What does that look like?
Yeah, we've experimented with a lot of different ways, and we try not to get stale with what we do, but we're back to the traditional format where there's 3 assistant coaches. They each have a scout. And essentially the way we do it, they are the defensive head coach for that game. They're formulating the game plan, how we're going to guard, what they're going to focus on personnel wise, what they're going to show that the other team does offensively. And then if it's something that's outside of our rules, it's a little bit tricky that might compromise our switching or compromise any of our base principles, then they'll come and ask me, hey, coach, here's are the 2 things that are a little bit different we haven't seen. How do you want to guard these? And usually that'd be the extent of my contribution to the defensive side of the ball. And then I'm trying to figure out different ways to score on them, what sets we're going to run based on how they play, who their weakest links are, those types of things. So I watch 3 or 4 games just to get a feel for how they play, how they flow, their principles of play. And then I focus on their defense and how we're going to score, and give almost full autonomy to the assistant coach who's preparing the game plan. And then even on our shoot arounds, the day of the game and the day before the game, the assistant coaches are on one end with half the roster, and they're doing the defensive game plan. And I'm on the other end doing the offensive game plan. And I have complete trust and faith in what they're teaching. And it's a way for them to be a head coach for 15 to 20 minutes on their scout. But as far as scouting, we don't spend an inordinate amount of time scouting the other team. We feel like our switching, we feel like with our base principles, we don't need to state the obvious. If there's an action that we run, we know how to guard it. And we might remind them in film, hey, this is their baseline runner, switch high, whatever the case, stay above, anticipate the duck in. They may flash high-low here. You guys know what to do, deny that high-low or sandwich, whatever we're going to do. And so there's probably 3 or 4 things each scout that we prepare for in practice, and we'll do defensive stations, and then we'll guard a scout team for maybe 10 or 12 minutes. But we don't spend a lot of our time worried about the opposition. We try to figure out a couple ways that we can disrupt their timing, their rhythm, what they do well. And then we just want our guys playing off the instincts and habits that they've developed up to that point.
Do you think your time as an assistant going through, a couple different places has helped you to kind of develop that trust in your assistants? Was there ever a time where you were on a staff that you didn't have that trust? Because I know I personally, I always get to that bad habits where if I don't do it myself, I don't feel like it's going to get done right. So, how have you developed that?
That's your answer. They've earned the trust. The first year or two, I probably observing more of the staff to see what I liked, what I didn't like based on how they taught and coached, and then encouraging them to use the same words that I or we use, just so we're all on the same page. And then it just kind of evolved to that, but they earned that trust that I don't need to look over their shoulder. I have complete faith that they've put in the work, they've done the research, and I believe that our players trust in the same thing. So it's very, very easy at this point, but I've worked, that was the beauty of being young and changing jobs. I've seen just about every way to do it and experienced it. And I was very fortunate that I worked for some guys that gave me a lot of autonomy, whether it was just, you have the defense, here's what I want it to look like, here's the end, here's what I want to look like at the end of the day, build it. And whatever you need to do, whatever details you want to teach, I trust you, I believe in you. And it allowed me to not only put my own thumbprint on it, but also learn and grow and make some mistakes like we have to do as coaches, because trial and error is a big part of this. I've learned a lot through trial and error. I've tried to learn from other people's mistakes, but really trying to be prepared for every situation, and then simply making the most educated guess you can make based on your personnel and their personnel, and then just hoping you made the right decision at the end of the day. But I think our switching makes it where we don't have to spend as much time scouting actions and sets and plays, because we do feel like we can disrupt and blow up a lot of what they're trying to do. So that's one advantage with us being athletic, like size, and we don't really have any poor defenders that other teams can pick on.
So let's go to analytics. I'm a bit of an analytic nerd and probably don't understand half what I'm reading. Like we now have a high school synergy, and I've messed around with synergy for a few years, and I am still frustrated as heck. I know what I want, what I think works for our program. The synergy thing, that little box, I got to figure out. I got training tomorrow with that, whoever the guy is. That little box drives me nuts. But I know you mentioned once that Coach Knight liked 75% defensive rebounding percentage, and you mentioned that something you do as well. Is there any other kind of analytics that might be a deep dive, or you're like, hey, we're just going bare basics? What's your direction on that?
Well, we do internal analytics after every game, because here's how I look at it. The analytics lie a lot, especially in a small sample size. For example, we could have run a play and we get late shot clock and we bank in a 3, and we've only ran that play 3 times all year, and we'd score 2 points in 2 possessions, which is okay. It's good enough. And then we bank in a 3, and now all of a sudden that's our most efficient play. And we don't really like any of the looks we got of the 3 possessions we ran it. So we spend a lot of time grading if we're happy with the result and the shot quality that we got based on seeing our guys in practice, knowing what we spend our time on, what shots we're trying to get, and just simply evaluating it. Is this the shot we want? Not whether it went in or not. Is this a shot that we can anticipate so we can offensive rebound? So we spend a lot of time, and it's rim and free throws, and free throws obviously are higher points per possession now, but you usually get to the free throw line because you got to the rim. So we still say the rim shots are first and foremost. We want to score at the basket, and we're efficient scoring from 2. And then a byproduct of that will be that we get to the free throw line as well. And then catch and shoot threes, by studying ourselves, we have 2 of our 4 guards shoot better off the bounce than they do off the catch. And they're both smaller guards. And if we follow modern basketball and we stay up with the times, we see that the most dynamic, dangerous guards in the game are the ones that can shoot threes off the bounce with range. So we encourage those 2 guys and we try to organize our offense and structure offense where they're going to have those opportunities. And so we do a lot with that. We chart every floater, every game for us and the opponent. We chart every mid-range for us and the opponent. And then we chart the floaters if we drew the big uphill so we could get an offensive rebound. So we do a lot of things based on, this is how we play. This is what we want to try to get. And if we don't get that, are we getting our secondary option? And so then we do the numbers and the points per possession and the percentages based on that. even with our turnovers. We were a high turnover rate team. And so for 2 years, this is before last season, and we went 13th to first. I broke down every single turnover. Our video guy just gave me every turnover, and I simply evaluated it based on, is this poor skill? Is this poor decision? Or is this poor planning and structure by the system? Like, are we putting our guys in a position to not play to their strengths and not have driving lanes or not have space to play? And so by doing that, we found some themes that said, look, if we can just eliminate these 3 things, and we're going to help you, we're going to move guys out of the deep corners. We're going to do that. We're going to help you. But if we can improve in these 3 areas, we immediately go from the bottom of the pack to middle of the pack in turnover rates. And we already shoot it well. We rebound it well. We shoot it well from 2 and 3. So if we can just eliminate these turnovers, then it allows us, and we're really good at half court defense. So the turnovers don't give up transition baskets. So now we are allowed, we can play to our strengths in all these other areas if we simply fix this one part of the game. And we stress it every single day. We do drills for it. But more importantly, we just wanted to try to find themes that everyone was doing. And then it usually comes down, if they're all doing it poorly, then it comes down to poor coaching. So we wanted to fix those issues as well.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like the turnover thing and how you figured out what they came from. And you said, is it bad planning or system? I remember COVID year when we were still playing basketball, we go and play preseason at Billy's place. And I was like, I heard Mark Pope talk, and I was like, we're going to run this pistol. Like, we're going to run this pistol stuff. And it is awesome. It fits our personnel, all this stuff. And so we're there and we're, reversing it, running the handoffs, and Billy would just trap the crap out of us and just trap it every time. And it was preseason. Like, he didn't know what we were going to do. And so he's just trapping us. And I was like, hey, we're just going to keep doing it. And then so that was going into Thanksgiving. I said, nope, we're done. We're changing it. We're going to do something else. We're going to do horns or some dribble drive type thing. But I love learning those things. And it's really cool to hear that you did something similar, because I would have beat my head against the wall for 25 games if I kept with that thing.
Well, even with that, when I was younger, just until recently, if that was happening, and maybe it's our assistant coaches and they jump out and trap something you're trying to run, I'd be like, come on now, work with us. We're trying to, and now I encourage, we'll be trying to work on a drop coverage. And I might tell our walk on, hey, every 3 or 4 possessions, whatever you want, jump out and hard hedge it, jump out and trap it. And that way we can give our guys the verbal cues, because the best players know what to look at. And so if you know who to read and you know what to look at, then it helps you where you're not, it's like throwing batting practice. Now, you rarely see a pitching machine throwing batting practice, because they want an arm and they want to be able to read the spinning of the ball and the shoulder cues and the hip cues that good players naturally read. And so it's the same thing with defenders. We don't do anything 5-on-0 or 3-on-0, because we always want them, even if we're guiding them, to be looking at the right things, to be reading the right cues. And so that's where the perception-based teaching comes into play, where everything we do, there's perception, and we're teaching them where to look, because we feel like that's the most important thing. And we've even simplified, I know the cognitive scientists wouldn't agree with this, but we've simplified decision-making. Your eyes take in information, and then your brain's going to, because you guys play ball, your brain's going to know what to do with that information. So when you're running back in transition defense, you can't be looking at the floor. Your eyes have to be up, taking in information, counting numbers, reading bodies, and then also listening for the verbal cues of guys telling you to stay with Jack or stay with Frank or whatever the case. So those are the things we're harping on every single day in practice: the decisions, the verbal cues, the visual cues. And then we just feel like that really helps our guys' IQ. And then when they're on the floor, they can make those decisions on their own without us having to joystick the game.
Going back a little bit to the analytics, you said you had the 2 guards that shoot better off the bounce. Was that something that you had to sell, or you say, hey, here are the numbers, and then you showed some film? How do you translate that to your players to really get them to buy into what you're saying?
Well, to be honest, it's just, these are the shots that the best teams will give up, that you can get against the best defense teams. You're not getting to the rim, and we don't really want to shoot contested mids. So where do we find space? So we spend a lot of time in our shooting drills and our warm-ups and our guys shooting extra, giving them, hey, uphill threes, lateral threes, step back threes. We believe a step back, sitting down into it on balance. There's a lot of positives to it. You can create big passing lanes. You can draw bigs uphill. A lot of things happen. But we also feel like we need to practice those and work on our balance and work on the reads. And so we encourage our guards to work on those, and then we shoot them in the summer, and then we evaluate whether we think that they look comfortable and can make them in games. If they do, then we design our offense with those things in mind. If we don't think they will, then we tell them to keep working at them. We'll get back to it later, but we got to get a better one right now. But even keep working on it, because you might need that at the end of a shot clock. We work on some of the challenging shots, saying you might not use this shot for 5 games. But when you're playing at the level we're playing at right now, a lot of our games are one possession. And one possession, this game at the end of a shot clock could be the difference in winning and losing. So if you can make this, let's say we get the late shot clock 4 possessions. If we can go 50% late shot clock, then we're going to win a lot more of those one possession games than we're going to lose just on that one facet where they've worked 50 hours on this one shot that they might only make 3 all year, but it's a difference in winning 3 games. Are those 50 hours worth winning 3 more games? We think so.
So, Coach, I'm going to ask about the big bad elephant real quick, just because I'm very curious. Are you developing a plan in the NIL world, or are you saying we're doing the best we can, or we're not going to do, like, we're just not even going to talk about it? Like, where do you fall? Because obviously it's getting out of control. Like, maybe just give me your opinion on it. It doesn't have to, you don't have to go in depth of y'all, but what are your thoughts on the whole process?
Outside of coaching and preparing and spending time with our players, you take our players out of the equation, I spend the most amount of my time on NIL. Trying to promote our program, having lunch with business, with CEOs of businesses. I have a lunch tomorrow with a gentleman who sold his grocery stores, and I want them to get involved in our program. And if they want to do NIL, great. If not, we want them to be a part of our foundation. We want them to buy season tickets. So no, there's never going to be a time when I'm going to say we did the best we can. It's a part of our job. Now, we can't secure deals and negotiate deals, but in the state of Florida, we can go out and recruit businesses to be a part of our program. We can pull the curtain back, and we can encourage those businesses to form relationships with our guys. And hopefully they want to do deals, and there's benefit on both sides. So no, 100%, it's part of our jobs now. And you'll never hear me say we did the best we could. That's part of it. No, if we didn't get it done, it's just like we didn't get it done in recruiting, or we didn't get it done with health. We had injuries. Not winning is, there's a number of reasons why you're not going to win, but we're never going to use anything as an excuse. Our first couple of years, we had more injuries than to star players than you could imagine. And it was never an excuse. We were still disappointed that we didn't max out as a team because we had belief in those guys that replaced the injured players. So we spend a lot of time on it every day. We're working on trying to recruit foursomes for our golf outings. We're trying to recruit. Yes, every single day we're working diligently on helping in the NIL space with relationships and whatnot. So yeah, do I like it? I love winning. I love developing good players. I love being around very talented people. So if you're going to have those things, then you need to be, then it's part of your daily responsibilities. And I want our guys to make money. I think our guys, they put FAU on the map. I know what they've done for this university, how much revenue they've generated because of our run, and will continue to generate the next 50 years because of what our players were able to do. So with that being said, I think they've earned the right to have a nest egg or a down payment on a house whenever they do get out of college and want to buy a house. And so, no, I'm excited for our guys. You'll never hear me say these guys make too much money. I hope they make as much money as they possibly can, as long as it doesn't change who they are to their core values and who they are as people. Then I want them to make as much money as they possibly can, because they're going to have families, and I know that will help them in all areas.
I was going to ask you, how is FAU enrollment numbers? Did you guys see a big spike?
Well, from what I've heard, I don't know the numbers yet, but I know the billions of dollars and the ad revenue that we generated being on every station for several weeks. But I do know this: out-of-state applicants are way up. Out-of-state students are way up. Our metrics, the test scores, we've become a lot more selective, which, you move up in all the polls and the rankings. And so FAU didn't want to grow exponentially. We just want to continue to have the name branding, which helps in research, which helps in the revenue from the state, but also the out-of-state applicants. They do help. They pay probably, I'm assuming 3 or 4. I have kids in college. Out-of-state tuition's probably 3 or 4 times in state. Yeah. So there's a lot of benefits towards becoming a national respected research institution. And it's not as if we did that, but we do feel like we were able to put FAU in a national spotlight. And because of who FAU Florida Atlantic is, then they were ready for that the curtain to be pulled back.
No doubt.
I love hearing you're dialed into all of it, the research, what you're trying to do as an institution. It's really I love you hearing that you're in the know. And so I got a couple more questions. We're going to get you out of here, Coach. So I'm just curious because I was talking about earlier how I listened to a couple of podcasts you were on. You talked about Doug Lemov and how you're a big fan, and I'm a big fan too. I listen to a lot of his stuff. You gave me some advice that you didn't even know, like, hey, just little baby nuggets of it. Don't try to read the whole thing, because I'll try to read the whole thing and I'll go in my classroom and I'll be cold calling and I'll be, passing papers out a certain way. Yeah, I'm passing papers out a certain way. I'm doing talking, all those, whatever, teaching like a champion. I'm just doing it all, Coach. But, and I know you and I believe, or I think I don't know if you're still talk to JP very often, but I'm just curious of your day to day. I know you mentioned you in the morning, it's your time. What's your day to day? What's your self-care look like? How do you implement some of the stuff you consume? I'm just all curious about all those things.
The first thing in the morning, and to be honest, I go in when I wake up, and it might be 4, it might be 7. By nature, I love the mornings. I wake up early. I usually by 9, my brain is mush. I can't get much done at night. So I'd rather wake up at 4 or 5 and work when my brain is the most creative. But I talk to JP quite a bit. Doug has actually become, we've leaned on each other a lot lately for some of the things he's working on. And then also I've asked him to just use me as a guinea pig. And so his next area that he's really diving into is film study. And his opinion is that technology's improved. Everything's improved other than the way we teach through film. And so I would record my film sessions with individual players with the team and send them to him. And then he would critique them and send back what he would do differently and things to keep in mind. So I know this, the staff said after our first team film session this fall, and it was, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. 2 of them said, as soon as we walked down, that's the best film session that we've ever had, or I've ever been a part of. And they were all things that we learned from Doug because of his willingness to share, but also just him being a teacher and us being coaches. We don't always think of the best way for our guys to learn. We simply, a lot of times, teach the way we were taught or what we know. And so he's really just opened up a lot of different avenues for us to improve. And I've learned, I can't tell you how much I've learned from it. And I haven't used, 2% of what I've learned, but I know some of the things that I picked up were some of my deficiencies. And so when you have a weakness or deficiency and you see a way that's almost like a solution to it, you go all in on that. And so some of the things I was doing, I knew they weren't the best way to do it, but I also didn't have a better way. So Doug's really enlightened me in so many ways, and I couldn't be more grateful for the time he's given me. I went down and he had a 2-day conference in Miami. I went down the night before and he tore apart a couple of the film sessions. Why aren't you doing this? He's not retaining this, those types of things, which to help me. He's very honest. And then I sat in a conference and listened to him teach a group of principals, athletic directors, really just teachers and principals and superintendents for 2 days. And I was a fly on the wall as a teacher. So I was working in small groups with teachers, how to turn and talk, how to get everyone back on task, how to make the classroom, our basketball court, a very safe place to be wrong and share. And so it's been a really cool deal for me, because I quit the field of education when I decided I want to be a college basketball coach. And I know that if I would have stayed that course and taught and got into the classroom, I would have been a better basketball coach earlier on. But that's the beauty of what we do. If we're at least decent at it, we get to do it for a long time and can continue learning and experimenting. So that's the most fun part of the job. But I get in the morning, long story short, and I read a minimum of 10 pages. Right now, I'm rereading Pat Riley's A Winner Within book, because it applies to the innocent climb and then the disease of me. And those are the stages we've been through exactly. So I highlight it. I take notes, anything that jumps out, any messaging to the team. And then I'll watch something. It might be one of our games. It might be a EuroLeague game. It might be an old database that I want to just kind of go back through and look at it 2 years later, because I see the game from a different lens than I did then. But after that, then it's just kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, return calls, return emails, players stopping through, walk upstairs to see who's shooting, get ready for practice, start thinking ahead, jotting down notes, reading the notes that I took the night before from practice film, and just really trying to get ready for our noon practice.
Answer Instagram messages from some lunatic that has a podcast that should be teaching
I appreciate
kids.
the persistence, because I don't have a secretary. This is all me. So sometimes I'm all over the place. So I appreciate it when people stay with me and don't get frustrated with me.
Well, I love it. I get it. And, like I mentioned earlier, 99% of the things you do now is probably not something you were doing a year ago, or the requests you get. Let's say that 99% of the requests you get is not something you're doing a year ago. But here's the last question we like to ask our guests. So in today's world, and I'll just say basketball, but if you want, we a lot of times ask high school basketball, excuse me. But you can do basketball in general, college basketball, where you want. But what bothers you most about basketball right now?
That there's this entitlement of just playing, and you just watch certain world-class events, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but just the appreciation of the way the game is supposed to be played, with teamwork, with unselfishness, with grit, determination, really, really caring if you win, really caring about your teammates. I think we've lost a lot of what, I don't want to say we've lost a lot, but we've gotten away from a little bit of what the core principles that I think we all learned from this game and helped us be successful in life. And the game's become almost a little bit too entertaining, where the numbers, the stats, the individuality has kind of outweighed the team space. So I think that's probably the thing that frustrates me the most now, but it's also the thing that makes me the most proud watching our guys, seeing the joy they have for each other, how much they enjoy sharing the basketball and playing a team game. And also just, they're so happy when their teammate has a great game or gets a personal accolade. And even, Rosado, who I was talking about, I saw an Instagram post where people are hyping him up. And it's easy, especially now, we get a lot of compliments, that we didn't get before because we won. And, that those things release certain chemicals in our brain that make us feel good. And Rosado's response was, I'm just a piece to the puzzle. So I think that there's not a lot of respect for what makes us successful. Usually as a player, I'm successful because I'm playing with other really good players that can shoot or post up or play great defense, whatever it is. But there's not the mutual respect. And we've even started doing that recently, where we just pick one guy randomly and then choose 3 of his teammates and say, what do you really appreciate or value playing with Joe? And they'll say, man, his toughness, he's always communicating on defense. And so we're just very aware and conscious of the gifts and values that our teammates bring to the table, because we wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for each other. We all know in our locker room, I need that staff. I need those players. Hopefully the players feel like they need the staff. And so that mutual respect that great teams have for the job that each other does to make the other successful. I think that's something that our team doesn't lack, but I don't see it very often.
That's a great answer. I feel like some of our guys are losing that competitive edge. And it's kind of what drives us coaching. That's why we're still doing it. We love to compete. Coach,
Yeah.
I got to get some of that info on the film stuff because I had a crazy idea of breaking some of my film into TikToks. I'm not even joking.
Love
it. I was thinking of these 30-second clips.
Definitely.
We're going to scroll through
100%.
TikTok, but I'd love to get some info on that, after we're done. But because we're trying to learn,
Definitely.
we got 30 seconds and those guys are thinking about something else.
Well, that's what even I got critiqued for having some film sessions that were just too long.
Right.
And the purpose isn't to show them everything. It's to get them to retain information. And if you can't ask them in 6 weeks to regurgitate it, then you didn't teach them.
Yeah, absolutely. You've been awesome, Coach. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, guys. That was a quick hour. That was a lot of fun.
Well, I'm going to close this out after this, but can you stay on for a couple minutes after?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. You'll hear me pause the recording.
Okay.
So, Coach, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. We know you're all over the place. You were actually in Lakeland, which is probably 15, 20 minutes from Billy. Could have just done this in person if you didn't have to go to Orlando and all the other places you had to go to. So
big fan of Steve Fitzgerald too. Coach Fitzgerald. Yeah, he's awesome.
No, he's a stud. He's a learner too. He's a lifelong.
Yeah, we can't wait. We need to get him on our How Are You Wired? But Coach, thank you. So much learned. I mean, so many notes taken. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Had a blast.